Jesse Holley is back.
What's up, man?
What's going on?
Same old, same old.
Can we start with some Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, why not? America's team.
All right,
Everybody wants to hear about the Cowboys.
definitely. Micah Parsons. Did you think he would be this good this soon? How do you feel about his ceiling after year one? Have we seen a player like him before, someone that can flip inside, outside, and D-line?
I don't think anyone saw that coming, Micah Parsons. I mean, you knew you were getting a good player, and this is a kid who set out all of last season because of COVID. And the Cowboys wanted a cornerback at that pick, but J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain and got swapped up early on, and so you kind of fell to the next available guy on your list, and it turned out to be phenomenal. I think Micah Parsons, in addition to what Dan Quinn is as a coach, was a perfect marriage. So no one expected, honestly, you hope. There is no metric, there is no analytics that's going to tell you that, hey, we're going to plug in this rookie who didn't play last year and he's going to be all pro. There's nothing that says that. But he came in and he and Dan Quinn, they clicked. And when you go back in history, there are players and coaches who just click, and you're able to find out things about them. And the Cowboys, due to injuries and other situations, found out, oh, by the way, we got this young guy who can play linebacker, but he can also play defensive end. And one of the guys who I compared him to, everyone wants to go the Lawrence Taylor route. I don't. I reserve that conversation for down the road, and plus LT's a Tar Heel, so I'm a Tar Heel. We got to make sure we preserve our Tar Heels. We're so quick to want to goat everybody. I looked at Darius Leonard from the Colts. He's a guy who's long, who's rangy. I think Micah's exceptionally faster than he is, but a tackling machine Darius Leonard is, and an aggressive young athlete who was Pro Bowl, first team All Pro. I mean, he was. I think he was even Defensive Rookie of the Year. I believe he was. But I look at those type of players right there. But his ceiling, to keep it in the Tar Heel theme, his ceiling is the roof. Like, there is no ceiling for him. There is no ceiling for him. The best thing that happened to Micah Parsons is that Dan Quinn came back. That Dan Quinn didn't depart and go get a head coaching job, and now they can take that relationship to the next level. My only concern is that Micah, like a lot of players have done in the past, they don't fall into the glitz and glams of being a Dallas Cowboy. A lot of people come here with the intention to be a football player, and then the glitz and glam of being the Dallas Cowboys happen to you, and that changes your hunger. So being a guy who you want to stay and keep hungry, there aren't many guys on this football team who have the mentality of Micah Parsons.
Well, I wanted to ask you, do you think that sack rate is sustainable if he plays more linebacker?
It's a fluid thing, because now the one thing that people have on him now is film. And when you go back and you watch the playoff game against the Niners sacrificed George Kittle and said, you may not be a big target for pass catching today, but what we need is an athletic, willing blocker. Now, when I say blocker, I'm not talking about pancake blocks. I'm not talking about put him in the ground and run him over. I'm not talking about that. Get in his way. Are you fast enough, agile enough, athletic enough to get in his way? If you go back and you watch that 49ers game, they used George Kittle a lot. They used Brandon Ayuk. I mean, they were using receivers, and it wasn't that they were blocking him. They were getting in his way. They were selling out enough to where they were saying, we just want to make him have to run the hump or take another direction or go another route, just not giving him a free run to the ball carrier. And they were effective in it. While he still had some really good plays, for the most part, they were still able to effectively run the football. And the thing is that next year this football team will change. You may not have the two bookend pass rushers. You may not have some other guys in front of you. You may not have some other guys on the back end. So all of that stuff changes over time. For Micah, if the sack record continues, great. For him, it's just being an anchor in the middle of that defense and allowing his mindset of what you saw this year to kind of permeate throughout the locker room. Because I think it's more, you have more players, offensively and defensively, who are quote unquote Hollywood than blue collar like a Micah Parsons. We need a little bit more blue collar, serious about football players than we do the Hollywoods.
That makes sense. I'm gonna come back to something, but CeeDee Lamb. Your two concerns is we saw him more or less not get the targets you might expect in a playoff game. Is that on Kellen Moore? Is that CeeDee? How do you evaluate CeeDee in year two?
I think CeeDee, and I've said this for a long time, exceptional player, phenomenal athlete. He's playing out of position. CeeDee Lamb is playing out of position, and when you looked at the way the year kind of went, you lost Michael Gallup early on, but they tried to make CeeDee Lamb a slot receiver. And just because a guy is athletic, just because a guy is an exceptional athlete, not everybody can play slot. There is a sweet science to playing slot correctly. And CeeDee just hasn't learned that yet. And you go back to training camp last year, and all the talks in training camp was how CeeDee Lamb was dominating. He's ready to be the number one. We can move on from Amari. Well, go back and look where he was playing at in training camp. He was playing in Amari's spot. He was playing outside. And when you put him in the slot, and I'm not saying that he can't be effective, but to fully get all of his potential, I think him playing in the slot more opposed to him playing outside, where I think he's more effective, for me, he's playing out of position. When you go to the targets, that's all about play calls, play caller, play thrower. That's where it comes down to. We watched the Super Bowl, and we saw the Rams lose Odell Beckham in that game. They had to kind of figure out how we're going to win this game. And on the very last drive, they committed to saying, hey, Cooper Kupp's our best player. He's our best wide receiver. We're going to him every single play. Period. And you look across the league, and that's why I don't buy it when people say, they double team him or they double team. We ain't watching the same NFL, because I've watched people double team Trayvon Diggs, Devontae Adams. I mean, you name the receiver, I've watched them be double teamed, and I've watched them still go get the ball, plays being thrown their way. So it kind of goes back to, what are the play calls, what are the play designs, and then what is the play thrower, the quarterback, doing to get. Not many teams can say that we have potentially 3,000-yard receivers when you add Michael Gallup to the mix. You're talking about Amari, CeeDee, and Michael Gallup, and even Cedric Wilson. He came in and was a spark for the team. Not too many offenses can say that we got 3,000-yard receivers and we can't find a way to get the number one guys, the football. That to me, that comes down to, that's a coaching malpractice type thing right there.
And you mentioned Amari as well. How do you view Amari at this point in his tenure with the Cowboys? There's been some speculation that he may be a salary cap casualty. Would that be a mistake?
Yes. It would be a huge mistake. And the reason being, one, Amari Cooper is one of the best route runners in the National Football League. I mean, pure route runners. And he got the chain that says so, right? He spent money on the chain that says so. But when you break down the essence of just pure route running, there aren't many in the league that do it better than Amari Cooper. I understand his frustration. You pay me, I'm making number 3 receiver money, and I'm number 28 in receiver targets. That doesn't make any sense. If you're paying me number 1 money, treat me as a number 1. And also, when you lose that, we saw what life was like what was that, 2016, 17, whatever. When was the trade made? 18? We saw what life was like before we had a number one. And people think you can just plug guys in there and they'll just go and be number ones. Amari sets up CD. Amari sets up Gallup, Wilson, Jarwin, all those guys. So you think just, we can just get rid of the number one and we'll be good to go. Well, now when you get rid of that number one, someone else has to step up in that place. And I don't know if CD's ready to be a full-time number one. That's a different level of responsibility. And when you go there, now everyone has to bump up a rung to that position. And just go back and look at the plays that Amari has made for this team, for this quarterback, for this offense in his years here. Yeah, there'll be the injury things, and there'll be some of the kind of, does he like to play? Does he not like to play? Whatever. His personality doesn't give you that, it doesn't give you what Dez gave you, that rah-rah or any of that. He's just very mellow, kind of even-killed dude. But I think it would be a huge mistake to let Amari go at this point.
And Dak Prescott, is this the most scrutiny you've seen him receive possibly?
Yeah.
Is it deserved? And has your perspective or confidence level changed at all in him to the point that you may question if he's the guy that can take the Cowboys to a Super Bowl?
Oh, the questions are there. The questions are definitely there. To quote from one of the Batman movies is either you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And in year 6 for Dak Prescott, we're tired of waiting, right? We people jumped on board. And remember, early on, it was a big thing of Team Romo, Team Dak, and it divided the fan base. It divided the fan base, and eventually people got on, right? You had the 2016 season, and it was like 13-3 or whatever it was, or the next season, and then it was like, oh, this is the guy. And then you started seeing the development, and like, okay. And then it was like, oh no. And then you had last year he gets hurt. He has the ankle injury and didn't be able to come back from that. And he's dealt with a lot of stuff mentally. And I think he's one of the most mentally tough players that we have in this league. But at the end of the day, when you get paid $40 million a year, I expect more. I expect you to overcome sometimes bad play calls. I expect you to overcome sometimes not having a specific guy, whether it's an offensive lineman or a receiver or whatever it is. This is why you pay that kind of money for those players. I go back to the playoffs again, and there's key moments. You brought in Matthew Stafford for that last drive, right? You go back because he does the no-look pass and threads it into Cooper Kupp for a huge first down. You pay Patrick Mahomes to be in that duel and be one play better than Josh Allen. This is what you get paid for. And for Dak, we've given you the Bentley. You've had the best offensive line at one point in time. You've had, running backs. You had receivers. I mean, you had it all. And yet it still has only yielded 1 or 2 playoff wins, in his career. 3 playoff wins in his career. One playoff win in his career. And first round exit. I think it's he'll get the first round. He's always like after the first round, and so the questions are there. The questions are there, and you saw a lot this year where he looked like he was confused. He looked like he didn't know where the ball was supposed to go, and you don't expect that from a guy in his 6th year. That's a second year, third year guy. You're looking for a guy to be able to come to the line of scrimmage and be able to decipher what the defense is doing and deliver the football and do it against good teams. When you beat up on the Giants, okay. You beat up on the Commanders now, cool. When you beat up on Philadelphia, cool. But when you got to go play the big dogs, that's why you make the $40 million to when it's time to compete against the big dogs and make your name, you got to go out there and do it.
Well, I want to ask you this too. Do you think the Cowboys are evaluating him even this offseason from the perspective of, is he our guy? Or is it too soon for that?
They're stuck. They can evaluate all they want. You're stuck. You talk franchise quarterbacks. They don't fall off the back of the apple cart. You know what I'm saying? And when you commit that kind of money to a player, you're stuck. And so the best thing that you can do is try to figure out how we can help him, how we can make him better, whether that's bringing a certain type of coach, whether that's a player or whatever it is. But you come to the point in time, they're stuck. There is no, you can't go down to your local Home Depot and just get the next franchise quarterback off of aisle 7. So they have to figure it out. He has to figure it out, and they have to figure out how they're going to make this work.
Well, I just want to ask you, with Mike McCarthy here, how outrageous of an idea is the possibility of Aaron Rodgers coming to Dallas?
Yeah, I don't know if they've legalized marijuana in Texas yet, but you're smoking on something. You're smoking on something. That'll never happen. That'll never happen. Like that'll never happen. Like I can't even wrap my mind to have that hypothetical even be something that's that's foreseeable. It'll never happen. Aaron didn't get along with Mike McCarthy at that time. And I know people are saying now, like, well, look what the Rams did. Go all out, right? Sell out for the, mortgage the future for the right now. That ain't happening. Aaron Rodgers is not coming to Dallas.
Well, let me ask you this about Aaron. Of these teams, where do you think is a fit? Tennessee, San Francisco, back to Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Colts.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, Green Bay. You stay there. You're comfortable there. You probably, you can re-sign Devontae Adams. It's what you know. I know that they lost their OC. He went to be a head coach. But, I mean, to me, that's the first place. And then I start thinking to myself, for Aaron, it's, do I want to put myself in that firing squad range of the AFC quarterbacks? Because you're talking about now, if he goes to Denver, if he goes to Tennessee, that now I have to deal with Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs are still the standard. Say whatever you want. Chiefs are still the standard. Okay? The Bengals are coming. I don't think the Bengals are a perennial Super Bowl contender. I don't. I think they caught fire when they caught fire. I think Joe Burrow's legit. If they continue to build around him, they got to protect him or he's going to be toast in the next 2 years. But Joe Burrow, you got to deal with Joe Burrow. You got to deal with Justin Herbert. You got to deal with a healthy Lamar Jackson. You got to deal with Josh Allen. Whatever the Pats are going to do with Mac Jones. I mean, do I want to deal if Deshaun Watson happens to come back in Houston or wherever he goes? Do I want to deal with that gamut of dudes, or I have to deal with all year long, or do I want to go to the NFC and I only have to deal with maybe Russell Wilson, maybe Dak Prescott, all guys that you've beaten before, you know what I'm saying, and go to a team like San Francisco where you have a solid foundation. Like San Fran, honestly, they are an above quarterback away from being back in the Super Bowl. Jimmy G is below. He's not average. He's below average. You get a quarterback that's above average, and we all know Aaron. We all think that Aaron Rodgers is way above average. You put him in that system, and maybe add another receiver to that mix. Holy moly, guacamole! That's some serious stuff right there. So I think for me, Green Bay, this is where the heart is. Then after that, he's a West Coast guy, San Francisco, California guy. I think the next best team for him, stay out of that AFC, man, and deal with the NFC and go to San Fran.
That would make sense. Maybe bring Devontae Adams with him as well.
It's possible. It's possible. Now you'll have Devontae Adams, George Kittle, and Deebo Samuels. and you'll have Brandon Ayuk, who's a really good player. You got something brewing over there with that. That's dangerous. I promise you, if they did that, they made those two moves. I don't know all the salary cap implications. I'm not that guy. I went to public high school. I don't do all that math. But you bring in Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, or Aaron Rodgers and Odell Beckham, or whoever, and you could put your money on that San Fran will be what a lot of people think is a Super Bowl contender.
Do you view the NFC as it starts with San Fran and then Dallas is 2 right now?
No, I think wherever Aaron lands, I think if he lands back in Green Bay,
so you would have the Packers ahead of Dallas as well.
Yeah. I would say Packers, San Fran. Packers, San Fran, and then maybe Dallas. That's if Aaron is there.
Correct.
If Aaron's not in Green Bay, then we have a different conversation.
Before we switch off the Cowboys, I want to get this one in. Your thoughts on your friend DeMarcus Ware not being a first ballot Hall of Famer?
You know, what a travesty. What a travesty. You know, and I'm kind of, as I'm getting older, I'm kind of growing sick and tired of the dinosaurs who still hold these voting rights. But we have to change that. We have to change that. We all know that DeMarcus Ware is a first ballot Hall of Famer. The numbers are there. There is no debate about it, right? You want rings, he got a ring. You want numbers, what else can you ask for from a player? And now it's, well, we know we have to get other guys in there first because they're on their last leg of getting in and so on and so forth. So we'll just kind of hold off DeMarcus Ware another year before we allow him to get in. No, give him the just due of making him a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think, and this is in all sports, right? I think basketball, baseball, especially baseball, and football is that, you know, every couple years, I say every 15 years, we need to get a new, fresh batch of people who are able to give votes, because these great grandpas who hold on to these votes, they act like, you know, they're the gatekeepers of this thing, and it's wrong. Like, I mean, nothing against people like, you know, Sam Mills and his family got arrested. He ain't. Come on, really. I mean, there's a lot of guys you looking at this and go, really, DeMarcus Ware, and he'll get in. He knows. Like, DeMarcus Ware's not an if, it's a win. It should have been this year, but what a travesty, man. What is a dumb thing that these voters are able to do. And it's the same thing in baseball. You know, they hold on to these things like Barry Bonds shouldn't be in there, and guys like, you know, Roger Clemens shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Like, come on, they want to hold on to these moral, you know, type things and all that. Stop it, man. Stop it.
Well, what's puzzling is DeMarcus has none of that, right? There's no controversy.
There's nothing. Like, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. And he has one of the greatest smiles in the game. Like, I'm like nothing. Like, he was a pro's pro.
And it's not like he played in Jacksonville. He played where the lights were the brightest.
Exactly. And he had monumental moments, right? I was part of the team when he was carted off the field one game, and we go down to New Orleans the year they won the Super Bowl, and they're undefeated, and that place is rocking. And he goes down there and he makes the game-saving sack on Drew Brees. We get it out of there with a dub. I mean, the Saints go on and win the Super Bowl that year, but I mean, there are plays upon plays upon plays that you can go back and you say he has the signature plays, he has the signature moments, he has the ring, he has the sacks, he has. I mean, it's. I mean, check. Gold jacket should have been in his house right now.
All right. With the Cincinnati Bengals and the Super Bowl here.
Yeah.
We talked about you segued into it. Joe Burrow. What have you made of his development, and do you see a ceiling for him?
Nah, Joe Burrow's legit. Joe Burrow is legit. You know, you hear about the Joe Cool, and he has that demeanor, and I like it because he has that quiet swag, that confidence that's not overbearing. It's really just something that you want to root for, but he has game behind it. Like we've seen quarterbacks, and I'll just use like Baker Mayfield, who's had this kind of wild arrogance, and you're like, you ain't done, But Joe Cool, he has that arrogance to him, but it's an arrogance that you want to get behind. I think he's legit. I really do think he's legit. They have to find a way to protect him. They do. They have to find a way to protect him.
Was that an embarrassment? Would you classify it as an embarrassment?
The entire playoffs was an embarrassment of what they had to do. I mean, he got by getting sacked 9 times against Tennessee. Like, there's no way that's sustainable. Even though they won that game, you had to believe that's not sustainable. And that's why I knew the Rams were going to do what they did, because I'm saying I knew what Tennessee was up front, and I knew what the Rams were up front. And if you gave up 9 to Tennessee, I knew you was going to give up at least 5 or 6 against the Rams. That's not a sustainable, not only for their team, that's not sustainable for Joe Burrow, because you take those hits over and over and over. I mean, he got hurt in that last game. He got hurt in the Super Bowl. And that's just what's going to happen when you're like, think about it, he got sacked probably 20-something times in the playoffs. 20-something times in a 3-4 game span. You matriculate that through the entire season. We're talking about a dude getting hit 60, 70, 80 times in a season. No quarterback can withstand that. None. Not I don't care who you, not Cam Newton, not anybody, not Dak, not Lamar, not Josh Allen, not Aaron Rodgers, not anybody. If a quarterback's getting hit that many times, that's sacks. That's not even talking about the other hits. Those are sacks we're talking about. So I think Joe Burrow's legit, but they have to find a way to protect him and protect him fast.
Facts. Jamar Chase, I wanted your perspective on him as a receiver, because to me this was one of the most impressive rookie seasons we've ever seen. Do you feel the same way? I do. And
here's the thing about the receiver game now. I mean, this league is a passing league. And defensively, and I would say it as a former receiver, it's become kind of a cupcake type of situation. Can't really hit them, can't really hold them, can't really touch them. So the receivers have an advantage. But the one thing that you see more so now than ever is the training starts so much earlier. I mean, we're here at the Star. You go the next block over into that practice facility, you got kids of all ages who are out there with one-on-one training with receiver coaches, running back coaches, DB coaches at 8, 10, 12 years old. So the teaching of the game is happening at a much faster rate. So that's why you're able to see guys like a Jamar Chase who, think about, he was God-given with his talent already, and then you add the training component to it as well. It puts him head and shoulders above the rest. And look across the league, look across college, you see more and more players being able to come into the league and be game ready and be ready to take over. But Jamar Chase is one of those guys, man. Like, he has a very, very, very high ceiling of what he's able to do, because he has a combination of speed. And when you look at him, like, look at his thighs. Like, he's a pause. He's a thick dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not some skinny chump. Like, he's a well put together athlete. So, man, just his footwork, his ability to separate, and once he gets to learn more, that's the biggest thing about a receiver. Learning concepts, learning coverages, learning players, right? This is your first time around seeing a lot of these DBs. Once you start learning tendencies and nuances and defensive coordinators and what they like to do on third downs, that takes your game to a whole nother level. So if you can add that to the knowledge of the game, I mean, this is a guy who you'll be looking at and you'll be like, wow. Yeah.
And how do you view Jalen Ramsey from the Super Bowl there? Because obviously there was like controversial catch from Higgins, but Chase did burn him. Do perennial corners, do we just have to accept that they're going to get burned in the new NFL?
Yes.
Or is a guy like Ramsey maybe overrated?
Now, here's the thing. So I grew up watching guys like Desean. I played with guys like Darrelle Revis. Okay? It's one thing to call yourself the best, and there's a whole other thing to actually be the best. And with Jalen Ramsey, I think he is one of the best corners in the league, but he's not Darrelle Revis. When quarterbacks aren't afraid to throw to your side, you can't be in that conversation. Like, quarterbacks still challenge Jalen Ramsey. Not that he's not good, but they don't fear him enough to not challenge him. And the same thing, look at here in Dallas. I mean, Trayvon Diggs had 11 interceptions. They still throw at him. I mean, he was opportunistic and made some plays. But when you start talking about like the best or like considered the GOATs, I trained and played against Darrelle Revis. Folks didn't throw to his side. Like, legitimately, it was like, we're not even going over there. I watched growing up. I watched Desean. Folks wasn't going over there. And so the game is changed, and we and I say we, the media, we're so quick we always got to put a tag on somebody. He's the greatest. He's the GOAT. He's the best. I think Jalen Ramsey is one of the best corners in the league. I don't think he's in that conversation with the Revises of the world because folks still go at him. Receivers go and line up on him, quarterbacks still throw at him, and receivers have some success on him at times. I'm not saying all the time, but, I mean, you saw in the Super Bowl, Joe Burrow and it was like, we coming at you, homie.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to ask you about Trayvon Diggs as well. How do you view him as development here? And does this season take him to the Ramsey level yet, or does he still have more to prove?
No, because in coverage, again, we watching the big games.
Diggs get burned too.
You watching the big games where, I mean, and the greatest thing is that the interceptions happened. The worst thing is that the interceptions happened, because when you start watching his tape, he was so eager to get another pick that a double move was killing him. And a lot of the big plays that he gave up was double moves because he was so ready to jump. And that's development, right? I hope that he'll come in this offseason and he'll look at tape and self-evaluate and say, okay, I have to be more patient. I have to be able to kind of see through the first attempt to come at me. But he has the skills. He has the skills that he's super athletic. He has great hands. He has deceptive speed. Like, I know he was like a 4.5 at the combine or whatever, but he could run with jokers. He could go stride for stride with you. His next part of development now is again, like Jamar Chase on the offensive side, learning nuances of the position. The same thing, learning coverages, learning, where's my help at, learning how, when guys line up +2 and line up bottom of the numbers, when they line up in the slot, when they line up in their motion. So figuring out all those things and then being able to see the action again for him. I think for him, he's in a good place, but it's the next step for him where if you want to consider yourself one of the best, the coverage part now has to come along with it. And when folks stop throwing at you, then you can put yourself in the best conversation.
Right on. And Tom Brady, we've seen his retirement. I think it's fair to say he exceeded expectations in Tampa. From even what we were talking about, like, is this the Joe Montana to the Chiefs, or is this Peyton to the Broncos? And are you almost shocked in a way that he's giving up on that team and that possibility of another ring? And by any chance, did you hear Steve Young's conspiracy theory that he might be interested in the Niners? and what do you think about just the whole retirement?
I was shocked at the retirement because, I mean, this is a guy who led the league in passing yards this year. It wasn't like he was Peyton in Denver where he was throwing ducks. And
Peyton's first year in Denver was when he was
right.
But
his game didn't fall off. Like, you didn't look at Tom Brady and was like, hang it up, pops. Your time is now. He was still wheeling and dealing. Injuries hurt them, right? You lose Godwin, and then AB does what AB does, and now you're down 2 of your top receivers. And so I was shocked. But I do think he's coming back. I don't know when, but I do think that maybe a half a year. People don't understand just how difficult it is to do something for 22 years of your life and then stop at the top and go home and be a husband and be a dad 24/7. Like, you might shut these damn kids up. Like, Giselle, this is what you do all day while I'm at work? You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's an acclimation period to that as well. But then I think when he sits down and he watches the game, he's gonna be like, I can make that throw. Like come on, we should have done, And it's always gonna be we should have done this, we should have done that, or whatever.
Well, didn't you feel as well that he was even better this year than he was his first year?
Yeah, I think that continuity came. Those guys actually got a chance to have a season underneath their belt together. They knew each other better. He knew the offense better. They knew, he and Byron Leftwich had a better understanding, and Bruce Arians, and all that stuff. They returned all 22 starters from their team. So I think they were even better. Now, it's tough to do that consistently every single year with bringing guys back. But with Tom Brady, he has the ability to be an eraser. So even when you lack in certain areas, he can make up for it because of his skill set. It's just so damn good, and he delivers the ball so quickly, so accurately, and to where it's supposed to go almost every single time. And so that's a tough person to deal with week in and week out. So I think he'll be back though.
And if for whatever reason this is it, and he is done, do you have a favorite Tom Brady story or memory from your time in New England?
Yes. So my locker was a locker down from Tom Brady's. And this was, when you start talking about GOATs, this one I was like, oh, I see why he's like really considered the GOAT. And this is before 7. This is like ring maybe like 3 or 4. I forget what number it was. 2011, 12. It might be 3 or 4, whatever it was. And first he was pissed off. They got the AFC championship rings. So he was pissed off about that. And I was just like, man, what I would do for an AFC championship ring. He's mad about it. He's like, this will go to my dad's house. I don't even want this doesn't go to the trophy room. I'm like, it's an AFC championship ring right there. You don't want to put that in the big house? But one of the things for me, I said it was like I said, a locker away from him. And every day it was so routine, like clockwork. We get off the practice field, we come back to our lockers. In his chair was a tape cutter, a chocolate milk, a towel, and an iPad. Every day. He comes in, cuts that tape off those big bulky cleats, wipes his sweat, shakes up his chocolate milk, drinks his chocolate milk, and he's watching something on his iPad. And I'm thinking to myself, what in the world is he watching? Every single day, every day in, day out, week in, week out. So one day, curiosity just got to me, and I said, Tom, I said, what's up? I said, what are you watching? Like, because after practice, we go in and we shower, we eat, and then we go watch the practice film. So I'm like, there's no way he's watching practice film. We're literally about to go watch it in 45 minutes. And I said, what are you watching? And he said, come here. And there was a camera in practice that was designated just to Tom Brady. And the camera angle was shot from the back. So it wasn't from the side or from aerial. It was shot from the back. And he said, well, I'm looking at my footwork and my head placement. So every single play, he wanted to make sure that this is after MVPs, after Super Bowls, after he's Tom Brady. But he said, I want to know that on my drop back that I didn't step in the bucket. I want to know that if I was throwing left, that I looked the safety off right. I want to make sure that when I handed it off, that I actually carried out my fake. Because all of these little things will matter in a football game. Well, you may not think they will. And the moment you think they won't matter is when they matter. When I don't look that safety off, when I want to throw it back left, up the seam to Gronk. So I want to practice it now. I want to make sure that I'm not getting out of contact with my footwork so that my ball sails or that it's flat or that it's going which way I don't want it to go. So I was just like, damn. I was with 2 other quarterbacks and I'd never seen that. I was with Carson Palmer and Tony Romo. I ain't never seen them do that before. But again, that's what separates. And it's those small things. That's what separates a guy from being the GOAT and being considered one of the really good quarterbacks in NFL history. And that's why to me, of course, you got to make the plays, but it's the small things to a guy who already had, at that time, 3 Super Bowls, MVPs, and all that kind of great stuff.
Wow. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. What have you made of their run? Are they the team possibly to watch in the AFC, maybe even ahead of the Chiefs, given what transpired in that AFC playoff game with the Chiefs?
No, I think Buffalo is definitely a team that's hot on the trail and on the tails. But to me, Kansas City's still the standard. But Buffalo's coming. Buffalo, they have all the components that you want. I mean, they got into a shootout with, sometimes you don't want to get into a street fight with a street fighter. You might be able to hang on for a little while, but eventually that street fighter going to gouge your eyes or, bite your kneecaps or whatever it is, because that's what they do well. And then you got into a shootout with a team who got more guns than you, got more ammo than you, and you lost. So I think they're close. I think they're close, and they're going to challenge. They're going to challenge the Chiefs every single year, as long as Josh Allen is at the quarterback position. But it still is going to have to probably go through Kansas City.
Justin Herbert and the Chargers. What do you make of Herbert? And are they a sleeper in the AFC conversation?
No, they're not a sleeper no more. People know who Justin Herbert is, and I think he can kind of have that Joe Burrow ascension. He's close. That's why I said that AFC is crazy. He's close. I mean, he's a piece or two away from really becoming and making the Chargers a legit team. He's gonna keep you in every single football game. And as he begins to grow and mature and learn, and they continue to put weapons around him, I think Keenan Allen's a great weapon. I think Mike Williams, he's kind of a one-trick pony. If you can add another weapon to that mix, but that AFC is going to be something lethal. Like I said, he is on the way as well.
With the Titans possibly getting a quarterback this offseason, I'm assuming that's on the top of their shop list. How do you power rank the AFC, and does it depend on what the Titans do there? Because if they do get a quarterback, do you move them up to one maybe?
Yeah, if they get a quarterback. The Titans are a tough out. But just kind of power ranking for me, it's Chiefs. It's Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, Titans. Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, Titans. And then I'll say Chargers, right? But, Vegas is going to be an interesting deal next year. Depends on what Denver gets at quarterback. Does Deshaun Watson come back? I mean, but I would still go, Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, Titans, Chargers.
Let's jump into Watson's future there. What do you?
I have no clue.
Like, does he play football again?
I have no clue. I think so. I think so, but I don't know when. I don't know. I don't know.
Is it a little bit bizarre to you that there's no kind of resolution, or is it?
Yeah, I think there's some dirty laundry that's being protected on the Texans side. But I don't know, man. That's such a crazy situation, and I'm always very, very cautious when you start dealing with sexual assaults, because I never, ever, ever want to make it feel like the victims aren't the victims. And if that reigns to be true, then then Deshaun Watson needs to pay for what he did, because you shouldn't do those things, period, to women, period. So I'm always cautious about how to play that. Do I think Deshaun Watson will play football again? I do. He's too valuable, and they're still paying him. So if you want to just keep giving this dude money, whenever he's making $25, $30, $35 million a year, whatever that is, if you just want to keep him doing that and him sit on the sideline, so be it. But they still got to pay him. So I would think at some point in time they would try to resolve it some way, shape, or form. with getting him either traded or getting him back in the fold of something, because whether you are like him or not, every Tuesday that direct deposit hit for Deshaun Watson, and it's a heavy one.
Are the Texans just pretty much the biggest disaster in sports right now?
Them and the Jaguars, yeah, but the Texans, I mean, they're terrible. Now maybe they've done some things to help out in the front office, whatever. But what they did under Bill O'Brien and allowing that to just transpire the way it did, what a mess. What a mess. And to have a guy like Deshaun Watson at your franchise quarterback, and he kept you in a lot of football games and made you very competitive. What a mess. What a freaking mess. You had the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year on your team. You had one of the bright young stars at quarterback on your team. You had literally a top 5 receiver on your team and Nuke Hopkins. And what a freaking mess. And all of that is gone. And you have nothing to show for it. It's not like those guys are gone and you're like, well, we got a Super Bowl with them. Like, you have zilch. You got J.J. Watt. Maybe he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? Will they do him like they did DeMarcus Ware? Who the hell knows? But, this is a guy he was going crazy while he was there. Hopkins, who was a first-team All-Pro, and he had 18 different quarterbacks thrown to him, and you do nothing with that. Deshaun Watson, you do nothing with that. That's you wonder why they are who they are.
Man. Speaking of DeAndre Hopkins, a little bit of a Kyler Murray drama going on with the Cardinals. How have you viewed Kyler's tenure and his first years in the NFL?
When you're picked as high as Kyler was picked, the expectation is high. And when you don't meet that expectation, or when you fold, when you get to those moments when they need you to be big, criticism is going to come. And the thing about Kyler is, and I kind of know Kyler, I won't say I know him kind of, intimately. We have a circle that we all kind of are in. So it's like, 6 degrees of separation. We're in a group of circles, whatever. Kyler's never been criticized. Kyler's never had a bad football moment. He never lost a game in high school. I think he might have lost one game at Oklahoma. Did he even lose a game at Oklahoma? Maybe 1 or 2 or whatever.
Just finishing your Kyler thought there as well.
Yeah. Again, not having to face adversity, and now, you're in the locker room with other guys, and you have to be able to manage that in a professional way, like, because you just can't go and bark on dudes. That's not the way this thing goes, and for Kyler, it's handling the criticism and the pressure of being QB1 and not being able to get your team over the hump. That's a place where Kyler has been, where he hasn't been able to get his team over the hump. And when you're picked that high and the franchise is on your back, just like we talk about here in Dallas with Dak, you got to come up big when it matters the most. And they haven't, and now, I laugh because the thing now is, if when you get an attitude with the new age, I take you off my social media. I unfollow you. Like, that is, like, I laugh. I'm the old guy now. I get it. I understand it. I willingly accept it. I'm the get off my lawn. But that's not where I grew up. Like, that's not how I was raised. I was raised, if I didn't like you and there was a beef between you and I let you know about it. And I'm not sitting here trying to be this tough guy, whatever, but nowadays it's, if I don't like you, I unfollow you. If I don't like you, I scrub you off of my social media. If I don't like you, I subtweet you. That is the culture that we live in today. And it's funny to me. It is hilarious. And it's even more funny. I get the younger guys. Like, Kyle's 23, 24 years old, something like that. when I see the old heads do it, like when I see the old heads get involved in that whole unfollow you, subtweet, or sub message or whatever it is, or scrub you from my IG page, I just always laugh because I'm just like, this can't be real. Like social media is not a real place. Like it's not. Listen to me. Social media is not a real place. Stop it, people. Stop it. It's not a real place, man. But people will make social media seem like it is this real life thing. And because you unfollow me or you block me or you scrub me from your social media, that's now like that is how Kyler Murray, instead of going in and sitting down with management or whoever it is to discuss and to air out their grievances, like men, he decided, I'm going to scrub you off my Instagram. And I'm always wondering, who in the hell? Like, Kyler has like 1 million followers. Stars have like 1 million plus followers. Who the hell is going to check that he no longer follows the Cardinals? Like, who's going through that? Like, what crony has someone hired at one of these networks that says, my job is I'm going to scroll through all of his followers. He has 20,000 followers, and I'm going to find out that he's no longer. I don't know how. Maybe it's
fantastic question.
Maybe it's done. I don't know. Maybe it's done in a different manner. But I'm like, who the hell finds this stuff out? And it happens quick. Like, people will know, like, Luka Doncic like this tweet or Instagram. I'm like, 185,000 people commented on this. How did you find out that he liked it? So it's a weird place. Social media is not a real place. Stop it, people. Act like adults. If you got an issue with someone, go talk to them. Go say, yo, I don't like you. We beefing, whatever it is. But they get on this space and I'm going to block you. I'm going to unfollow you because I don't like you.
Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. How do you feel about his rookie year? How do you feel about the Bears' outlook?
Justin Fields was cut a raw deal. And I like to say also, to defend one of my Tar Heels, if Matt Nagy did that to Justin Fields, why nobody want to give my boy Mr. Trubisky a pass being under the same coach? You saw what he did to Justin Fields. Well, it was the same guy who had Mr. Trubisky. And no one said anything about that. No one. So there is, the old saying is coaching matters. And when you don't have a coach that knows how to develop, that knows how to play to your skill set, the good ones, the good coaches and organizations find out what you're really good at and work within that realm as you're growing. The bad ones just go out there. They try to keep forcing that square in that circle hole, and they're like, it's gonna work. And at the time, your team is getting their heads beat off. Your quarterback is getting his head knocked off, and you're losing. And instead of you adjusting and saying, okay, what are you really good at? I give credit to the Ravens and Harbaugh with the Ravens. They said, all right, here's what Lamar Jackson is. We're not making Lamar Jackson Peyton Manning. We're not making him Tom Brady. Lamar Jackson is this. And here's how we're going to win with him at quarterback. If we're going to commit to him, here's how we're going to do it. And as he begins to grow and to develop into a better passer, as that happens, we'll open that part up to it more. But Justin Fields was cut a raw deal. He was starting. He wasn't starting. He was in. He was out. He was hurt. The offense was this. It was that. I mean, and for a young quarterback, mentally, that messes with you. That messes with you. And sometimes that's an irreversible thing. So hopefully the situation with Justin Fields and develop him and to play to his strengths, like play to a young quarterback's strengths as you're developing him. Not to be quoting, like there's a but I'm gonna quote it anyway. But there's a song by Betty Wright, and she talks about it's no pain, no gain. And in that song, she says, "I was earning my man while I was learning my man." So with that, you have to take that same concept. You have to kind of earn that quarterback to be one of the best quarterbacks while you're learning that quarterback. Don't just make that square peg fit in that round circle, because it's never going to fit no matter how hard you bang it in there.
Makes perfect sense. Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. Same question. How do you evaluate that?
I just don't think Jalen Hurts is that good of a quarterback, honestly. Now, granted, when you're trying to develop a quarterback, it helps to have weapons and not having any weapons. That's tough for a guy like Hurts when you're trying to scramble around and your number one is actually really a number three, right? So you're trying to figure this whole thing out, and your coach won't run the football when he's supposed to run the football and say, you know what, we're a really good team when we actually hand the ball off to these guys in the backfield. And you try to make him something that he's not. Again, coaching matters. So I don't think Jalen Hurts is a good passer of the football. That's just my personal belief. When I played with the Cowboys, only the males were allowed to come to Philadelphia Eagles games because they were that vicious. So they pull no punches. And for Jalen Hurts, he and that future in Philadelphia have to figure it out quick. But I don't think he's not the guy that'll be in Philadelphia. He'll end up being looked over pretty soon.
Saquon and Daniel Jones. Have we seen enough with them to possibly think about blowing it up, or is it just coaching?
Oh, man. Let me say this first, though. Go look at New York moves this offseason. Their hirings, their GMs, their assistants. New York is trying to build something on the low. New York is trying to build something on the low. And you hope, again, coaching, you hope a guy like Brian Daboll will be able to say, okay, here's what we did with Josh Allen. Remember, Josh Allen's first year in the league, he couldn't hit the walls out of a barn. He struggled. And then he all of a sudden turned into this monster. Accurate, no one going. So there's a lot of hope hanging on the fact that Brian Daboll did something in Buffalo with Josh Allen, that maybe he can do that with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is an athlete. I think, again, Daniel Jones had some issues with himself. Like the fumbling part, that's all on Daniel Jones. That had nothing to do with coaching. That had nothing to do with culture. Hold on to the damn football. Like, that's on you. I think he's a good enough player that if you put the right hands on him and the right group around him, that he can be a player. Super athletic. He has the running ability. He has an arm. You just got to figure out where the ball is actually going. And I think that's the same thing with Josh Allen. It was Josh Allen he always had an arm, but he had a machine gun and didn't know how to aim. He figured it out at Wyoming, right? And then he figured it out, and now it's like he's considered one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. Daniel Jones can throw the football. He don't always throw it to the guy in his uniform, but he can throw it. So now it's being able to kind of corral that and say, you have a really good set of skills. Let's take that and hone in on it, and let's just get it to where it's supposed to get to, and then we'll move on from there. But the Giants, watch out. The Giants are building something on the low in New York.
On the Saquon angle, do we have to reassess who he is because of injuries?
Yes, you do. You do. And again, Saquon, when teams looked at Daniel Jones, they said, we want him to throw the football. We're going to load everybody up here in the box and stop Saquon. And that's a hard living for a running back. When you don't have a really good offensive line, when your team isn't fully committed to running the football, so that the mindset isn't there up front, and then you have a quarterback who no one is afraid of. And actually prefers that he throws the football 40 times a game. So for Saquon, you have to reassess it because of the injuries, but also, again, when Brian Daboll comes in, can he make this a well-balanced offense? It wasn't a balanced offense. And when you don't have a balanced offense, your quarterback stinks, and your running back, which was your best piece, they just loaded up and said, we're going to just keep 8-9 guys in the box and let your quarterback do what he does. So for Saquon, hopefully with this new change, it becomes balanced. If Brian Daboll can get it balanced, I think Saquon can get back to that where everyone thought he would be early in his career. But if not, then he'll be passed around the league like Corinne Steffens or something, like Superhead or whatever.
That's two for you. Carson Wentz. What happened to this guy? And what do the Colts do here?
They are who we thought they were. I mean, I thought Carson Wentz was going to have, and he had moments in this year. Like, he had moments in the season where he was like, okay, like that's the Carson Wentz that we thought was going to be an MVP before the injury. I don't know. For quarterbacking, it's so much mental. It's so much mental when it comes to quarterbacking. Like, we know you could throw the football, but it's all up here. And when that's broken, when that part is broken, when the mental part of a quarterback is broken, it's damaged goods. I think Carson Wentz at this point in time has become damaged goods. And they're committed to him now because they gave up so much to get him, with Frank Reich being there. And I think he'll have moments, but I think overall, damaged goods. I think Philly broke him. And he's never.
The media, the fan base, what?
Everything. The
injuries.
The getting your team to a point, and then now they put a statue of Nick Foles in front. Whew. Think about that. Think about you being the franchise guy, you being the dude, and the year you're having the best year of your career. You're arguably the pick for MVP, and then you get hurt. And then your backup comes in, and he takes the team on a magical carpet ride to the Super Bowl and gave a starving fan base and city a Super Bowl. After all of their coming up so close to getting that back in the Andy Reid, Donovan McNabb days, he gets it. And now you're nothing. They put a statue of Nick Foles outside. You're not, like, Nick Foles will always be a legend in Philly, and you'll be an afterthought. That will mess with you mentally. And every time when you came back, it's always having the, well, what can you do what Nick Foles did? That'll break a person.
All right, we'll get you out of here on this. Russell Wilson, what do you make of his career and tenure with the Seahawks? Do you think this is it? And if it is, where do you think is the fit for Russ?
I do think their time has come to an end. I think it was a really good run. I think Russell benefited early in his career for having a well-built team around him. And through that, he developed his skills. I think Russell's one of the great leaders in our league at that position. But there are times when you just, you run your course, and you can't, as much as you try and you want to, just sometimes it's like, man, my time here is done. And I think Russell and the Seahawks have come to that point where his time here is done. And I thought for a moment when when Sean Payton was still in New Orleans, that maybe that might be a place that he would go, that New Orleans would welcome him. Sean Payton would love to have another reason why Sean Payton retired, he looked around and said, I don't have a quarterback, and I can't function without a quarterback. But anywhere that Russell goes, that team becomes better. It does, on the field and in the locker room, because of his leadership. So, teams like San Fran's in play, right there. Tennessee's going to be in play. Depending on, if Aaron leaves Green Bay, they're going to be in play. So there's a bunch of teams that I think would mortgage the future to bring in, especially those teams who are close. And San Fran's going to keep coming up. Like that name for every viable quarterback that's worth anything, that name's going to keep coming up because everyone knows they're close and they're an above average quarterback away. So they're always going to play this, ring around the quarterback. Which one will fit into San Francisco's scheme, a la the Rams, to get them over the hump. So, that name's going to keep coming up. San Fran.
Do you think they would trade him in division?
If the price is right. It's always about the price. I don't know what San Fran has to offer, but everyone has a price. That's just the nature of the beast. If what I get back for Russell Wilson can help me for the future, I don't give a damn if he's still in the division. That's going to set me up to win, and then great, let's do it. But everybody has a price. I don't know. Again, I don't know what San Fran has, how far they're over the cap, close to the cap, or assets and all that kind of stuff. I don't know all. Again, I told you I went to public school. I don't know all that. I don't know all that stuff. But yeah, there's a price. There's a price.
All right, Jesse Holley.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
No doubt.
Great NFL season wrap up. Signing out.